Hi, my name is Lauren, and I'm going to be teaching you how to use the Vida today. If you have any questions about this tutorial, please look through the manual, as everything I'm going to tell you today is covered in there, or you can call us and we'd be happy to help you over the phone. The things that come with your Vida in the packaging are one Vida machine, a thumb drive with all of the software on it, one scraper, one X-Acto knife, and in a separate box you will receive your curing oven. The things you will need that do not come with the machine are an air compressor, 2 plastic containers with lids, 99% isopropyl alcohol, or 91% if you can only get it from your local drugstore, a roll of paper towels that are absorbent, a set of Allen wrenches, one paintbrush used in the cleaning process, gray mylar film that we use for focusing, digital calipers for measuring, a keyboard and/or mouse. Also with your machine, you'll receive one bottle of material of your choosing and one PSA basement. So what we're going to start with, this is the Vida. Down here, this is the main case. This is the chassis where everything sits. Inside here is where your projector, your PC board, all of the guts of the machine, the brain, everything is located in here. Up here is the hood. It just opens and closes by lifting. You'll want to be careful not to push on it too hard, otherwise you'll stress these hinges back here and you can cause damage to your machine. Looking here, this is where all of the action is going to happen. The first thing you may notice is this platform right here. We call this the build platform. It is removed by this thumb screw here on top. To remove it, I'm going to place my hand right here on the handle. I'm going to take my other hand, loosen this screw, it pulls right out. This is the surface everything's going to build on. This is the mating surface that meets the arm that is on the Z slide. The Z slide back here is the heart and soul of the machine. We will want to oil that probably about once every 6 months. Before putting this back on, you always want to make sure the surface right here is clean and this surface right here is clean. If they are not clean, this platform becomes not parallel to the basement, which we're going to talk about next. So I'm going to slide this in. You'll notice there's a lip right here on the front. The lip always goes towards the front. So I'll slide it back in. Again, I'm going to hold it and tighten that screw back down. You'll notice coming off of the Z arm, you'll see a little tab. This touches the homing sensor. This is how the platform knows where it is in space. You want to make sure not to move this, otherwise it can cause further calibration. Next, down here you'll notice we have the basement. I always think of it like your basement floods. We put material in the basement. The basement is what holds our material. It is held in by 2 thumb screws and a rail assembly down here. To remove it, I'm going to loosen these screws and I can slide this right out. As you can see, there are many screws across this. You do not want to touch those. This basement assembly is comprised of 2 parts. This top part is called the PSA, which stands for pre-stretched assembly. Down here inside you'll see there is a film. This is a stretched membrane. And then on the bottom there's a metal portion with a glass window. These both fit together. The PSA portion, this top portion, is a consumable. You will have to replace this every 60 to 100 builds. If you look right here, you can see the railing more clearly with our thumb screws holding these in. If you look down on here, that's a safety glass. This keeps any material that may be on your platform from falling in and damaging the machine. You can also look through here and you can see your projector, you can see the light coming on, and you can see the shutter opening and closing if you ever need to confirm those things. To put the basement back in, if you look right here, there's a little F. This means front. I'm going to go ahead and slide this on the rails. I'm going to tighten the thumb screws, and now it is firmly in place. Over here to the right, you will notice a little blue sensor. This is an RFID card reader. This is what reads the material tags that come with your material. These tags are little white tags, and they have the name of the material on them, as well as the company names, that way you know what they belong to. This keeps track of how much material is in your bottle. Not only that, but it keeps you safe from accidentally using the wrong material with the wrong build style. To put this in, I'm going to make sure it's horizontal, and I'm just going to slide it into the clip right here. And that's where it stays. You will change that depending on what material you put in. This right here is our touch screen. This is where all of the action happens, and this is how you control the machine. It is completely touch screen, okay? So you control it with your finger, or you can buy your own stylus to use, whichever you prefer. Right here to the right is a power button. This is how we turn the machine on. The machine is turned off using the touch screen, which we'll go over later. On both sides of the machine, you will notice we have a series of ventilation holes. This is what allows the machine to breathe. When placing the machine, you want to make sure you have at least 2 feet on either side to make sure there's proper airflow to the machine. If not, it can overheat and turn off during the build. When we move to the back of the machine, you will see down here, this is our power plug. This is how we power the machine. You will receive a cord that comes with the machine to plug it into the wall. It is best to make sure this is a clean line, or that it is plugged into a battery backup. This will make sure that your machine stays on long enough to finish the build. Over here to the right, you'll notice we have an Ethernet plug. This is what allows you to connect the machine hardwired into your network. This machine does have wireless capabilities. If you have wireless in your building, you may not need this, but it is provided in case it is a wired network. Down here, you'll notice 3 USB ports. These are provided for you to plug in things like a keyboard, a mouse, or a thumb drive, so that way you can move the jobs that you wish to build onto the machine. The last thing we're going to talk about on the back of the machine is your serial number sticker. This sticker right here provides the serial number. It is located right here, always starts with et.pv. If you call in for service on your machine or have questions, this is a good number to provide to technical support so we know what is in your machine and when it was made. The next thing we're going to do is show you how the screen works and where everything is located. To turn the machine on, I'm going to push the power button, hold it in for a second, and then the screen will power up. Once the machine is booted up, this is what you will see on the main screen. If you look on the left, we have 3 different tabs. The one that is always selected when it first boots up is the main tab, because this is our main screen. At the top, you will see a connect button. This connects the motion controller, which will move the platform up and down. Next to that, you'll see an abort button. This will stop whatever the machine is doing in case there is an error. Directly underneath that, we have a black screen. This is where it will show what image is being projected while the machine is building. To the right of that, this is your job list. Right here, it will show you what the job name is. That way you can verify the correct job is loaded. Below that, you'll notice we have a start button. This starts the job. A move button. We use this to control the platform, moving it up and down or into the home position. The load job button, which you use to actually load the job onto the machine. And then we have set Z motion. This button is used by technical support only to move the platform speedily up or down. At the very bottom, you will notice a progress bar that currently says 0%. This shows how far through the build the job is. Underneath the black screen, you'll see a status bar. This will tell you what the machine is currently doing right now. The next tab is the Options tab. I'm going to take my finger and just push on it. Again, this is a touch screen. You'll notice we have IP settings and load file. The IP settings, if I click on this, it will show me all of my internet settings. I can use this button up here at the top, and I can select Wi-Fi or wire. This particular machine is usually wired in, so I will leave it unwired. Once the machine is plugged into your network, you would select Get IP, and the IP address would appear up here in the top, giving you the mask and the gateway. This is information for your IT person. At the bottom, should you have any issues, we have the advanced network settings where you can go in and manually add a network if it is not being found. To get out of this screen, I'm just going to click on the background, push on the background with my finger. The load file button is used also by technical support usually. This is used to load one image to verify the projector is working. Above that, you'll see keep projector on after job. This should always be turned off. And then check images before starting the job. This should always be enabled. This allows the machine to verify that all of the images within a build file are valid. On the right, you'll notice we also have 3 tabs inside of the Options tab. We have Job Settings, which is the tab I just described, Info, and Advanced. If I click on the Info tab, this gives me all of the information about the machine. At the top, if I click Check, it will give me the version of the firmware I am using. This is important sometimes to tell technical support so we know what version of the firmware you're using. Below that, you can check how many hours the light has been on by pressing check. This one's been on for 3 hours. And then we can check the remaining volume left on our material tag by clicking check. It reads the tag and tells us how many milliliters we have left. Below, we've got the Advanced tab. If I click on that, this is going to show us advanced options. The only thing in here you should be touching is right here under Advanced Settings. Either enable moving down, which enables you to move the platform down. Normally we keep this turned off. There is no sensor that keeps you from moving the platform down too far. So we keep that turned off. You can turn it on here in case you do need to move the platform down, or to enable the hum calibration, which I will show you later. Below that, we have factory setting and projector power on. Both of these, as well as the display units and the flip image, are for technical support only. If we go back to the left, the very last tab says Help. If I click on that, this will take me to a screen that allows the technicians that are helping you to unlock service mode, should we need to, which allows us access to other features. It shows our licensing agreement for the software. And then right here, you'll notice the Vida shutdown button. When you are done for the day and you wish to shut the Vida down, you come into the Help tab, you select this button. It will ask you if you want to quit the application. You would push yes, and the machine would turn off. I'm going to show you how to take apart the basement and the different parts of the basement. We're going to need a 2.5 millimeter Allen wrench. We're going to be undoing these 4 corner screws. I'm going to take this Allen wrench and I'm going to loosen all 4 of them and take them out completely. There we go. Once I remove the 4 screws, I can lift this top portion off. This is the PSA assembly. Here is the membrane at the bottom, Attached to this is a separation film. This down here is the base part of the basement assembly. This always stays with the machine. The only part that gets replaced is the PSA and the separation film. To put it back together, I'm going to take the separation film, and there is a textured side. The textured side goes down towards the glass. I'm going to center it over the glass. Then I'm going to take my PSA and I'm going to set it down over the top of both pieces. The separation film keeps the membrane on the PSA from sticking to the glass. I'll then put my 4 screws back in each corner, tighten them down, and then the basement is completely ready to use. The first thing you need to do after unboxing and placing your Vida in its new home is verify that everything is working and calibrated properly. The first thing we're going to do is check the focus and the image parallelism. To do this, I'm going to turn the machine on, go into the Options tab. I'm going to go into the Job Settings tab. And then I'm going to select Load File. This will cause the projector to turn on and warm up. Once the projector is ready, I'm going to go in and select mask.png. I'm going to click on Open. To begin, you'll notice we have a purple illumination coming from the projector. I'm going to take my gray focus film. I'm going to lay this over the top. You can now see the rectangle more clearly. To keep this in focus, I'm going to take some clear tape and tape this down on the sides. The next tool I'm going to need are my digital calipers. These will allow me to measure and check the parallelism of both the X and the Y. I'm going to open up my calipers, set them on either side of the box of light, making sure they're straight across from one another. Once I line this up, I'm going to tighten my little screw, and I'm going to come down and measure the bottom side. They should line up roughly the same with the box of light. If for some reason they are larger or smaller, call technical support. We're going to repeat the same process for the Y-axis. Once you've verified both the X and the Y and everything is parallel, we're ready to move on to the next calibration. The second calibration we're going to do for the Vida is the initial home position calibration. This calibration sets how tight the platform is against the basement. This is a crucial calibration to do anytime you change the PSA or if your build is falling into the basement. To begin, we're going to go to our screen, make sure our Vida is turned on. We're going to go into the Options tab. We're going to go into the Advanced tab. And we're going to select Enable Home Calibration. Once the check is in the box, we're going to go back to the Main tab. And at the top, you'll see a new button next to Connect that says Calibration. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to connect the motion controller. Then I'm going to push the calibration button. This brings up our prompt to do the initial home calibration. We're going to start by pressing the initial home button. This will bring up a prompt asking us if we want to move to a safe distance, meaning it's not going to move all the way down. So I'm going to say OK. The platform will begin to move. It is important before you begin this calibration to ensure that all material is cleaned out of the basement. Once the platform has stopped moving, I'm going to check to see how far down the platform is. And then I'm going to put in a value into this move bar. You can do this one of two ways. There's a digital keyboard right down here on help that you can select. It will bring up a digital keyboard. For those of you who have eyesight issues, you can use a normal keyboard plugged into the USB in the back of the machine, which is what I'm going to be using. So I'm going to click there. And I'm going to start out by putting in -5. Then I'm going to click the move button. The platform is going to move down 5 millimeters. I'm going to check the distance again. It still has more to go, so I'm going to click move. That moves me down another 5 millimeters. If you look right below where you see adjusted distance, it will tell you the total adjusted distance you have moved. We can't move any further than 5 millimeters at a time, and I still have more to go. So I'm going to click move. This brings me down to 15. I can go down again. It's getting closer. One more time. Okay. This is the point where I'm going to start pulling the basement forward and backward to feel the pressure. I'm going to change this value now to -1. This will move down 1 millimeter at a time. Click move, and again, I'm going to pull on my basement. Still loose. We're going to move down 1 more millimeter. Okay. I'm going to keep repeating this process until I can feel the platform begin to drag on the basement. Okay. Now it's too tight, so I'm going to put in a positive number to bring it up. I'm going to start with 0.1 and click move. We're just going to move little bits at a time. Okay, that's perfect. So it slides forward and backward. I can feel a good drag on the basement. If you cannot move the basement, it is too tight, and like I did, you'll have to bring it up using positive numbers. Once we've gotten the basement exactly where we want it with pressure with the platform, I'm going to click the save button. After I click save, I'm going to click exit. And then to check and make sure that this saved properly, I'm going to actually home the platform. To do that, I'm going to open the move menu down here at the bottom, and I'm going to select the home button here. It's going to ask me if I'm sure that I want to home. I'm going to say yes. So the platform is going to pull all the way up and then come all the way back down to where we calibrated it to in the basement. Once the platform stops moving, I'm going to push and pull on the basement. It should feel identical to how it felt before, which it does. And at that time, we can say we successfully finished the calibration. When you're ready to build, the very first thing we need to do is put material in the basement. Make sure that your platform is clean and has no material on it. If it does, you'll want to remove this first. Then we'll need to take out the basement and actually put material into it. So I'm going to loosen the thumb screws and slide the basement out. I always want to make sure to place my basement on a soft, clean surface This keeps the bottom of the basement from getting dirty. Anytime I deal with material, I want to make sure to put on gloves to protect my hands. You may have an allergy to the material you don't know about, so make sure to keep yourself safe. We have MSDS sheets on all of our materials on our website. Before I pour the material, I make sure to shake the material up. This is the material we're going to pour into the basement. This is our e-shell material. It's a clear material used for clear guides and other objects you may need to be clear. And then I'm going to fill the basement about halfway. That looks good. If you see bubbles in the material, that's completely fine. They will be pushed out of the way and will not affect the build. Once I've poured my material, I'm going to put my basement back in the machine. I'm going to put my basement in. Again, I'm going to make sure that the little F for front is facing forward. I'm going to slide it all the way to the back and tighten down these thumb screws. At this point, if you had to take your platform out, please make sure to put it back in the machine, tighten it all the way down, and then we're going to close the hood. Anytime you have material in the basement, it's recommended you keep the hood closed. This keeps out any ambient light and dust or other particles that may contaminate the material. Once we have created the build in our Perfactory RP software or the Cambridge software, then we're ready to build. Make sure it's been transferred to the machine, either through a USB in the back or through the network. Once we are ready, we're going to connect the machine. Then we're going to come down to Load Job. This will bring us to our menu where our jobs are loaded. We're going to select the job we want to build, and it will show a simulation of that job right there on the right. Once we verify that's the job we want, click Open. This will appear over here on the list to the right and have the job name underneath. Once we have the job loaded, we're going to home the platform. Again, we're going to click Move, and I'm going to select Home. I will get a message asking if I would like to home the platform. I'm going to say yes. The platform will move up, touch the homing sensor, and then go down into the basement to the initial home position that we have set using the calibration. When the platform finishes moving, I'm going to press Start. This is going to ignite the projector and start the job. I'm going to get a message on the screen that asks if I have homed the platform. Since I have, I'm going to say yes. The machine's going to check all of the images and then ignite the projector. As you can see on the screen, our first exposure is being exposed right now. You can see the outline of it on the black square. At this point, the job has begun. After a few layers, you will see right here where it says estimated time. It will actually give you an estimated time of completion. Once the job is complete, we will go through the steps of cleaning and post-processing your parts. To show you further how the machine works, we're going to open the hood. Normally, this is not recommended. And you can see the build platform moving up and down. The way the system works is when an image is projected, it is projected to the bottom of the basement. This image cures onto the build platform. Once the projection is complete, the platform pulls up, allowing fresh resin to move in where the cured resin was. The platform moves back down to the next layer thickness, and the exposure exposes again. This process continues until your parts are built. Please be aware that the light that comes out of the projector is very bright. So I would not recommend looking at the light while it's on. You can damage your eyes. Make sure to wear protective eyewear whenever dealing with the light. In the event that you need to stop the machine immediately, such as an emergency, please remove this power cord. You will remove it completely from the machine. Make sure to keep all of your fingers clear of any prongs, as there is a large risk of electric shock. There's a lot of power required to use the machine, so please use caution. This will cause the machine to immediately stop. It will turn everything off, and whatever you were building will cease. When the build is finished, the platform will pull all the way up to the homing sensor, and this is what it will look like. Your parts will be adhered to the platform, and they will stay like this until you remove them. Once the build is complete, the projector will also turn off, so you are not using extraneous light power. Remember when we remove the platform to place one hand on the handle and then loosen the thumb screw. Then we can slide off. The material should drip into the basement. This wastes less material and it creates less mess later. Because we have material still in the basement, let's make sure and close our hood. To remove the models from the platform, we are going to use a spatula that comes with the machine. If you have parts that are very solid and hard to remove, you will also receive an X-Acto knife so you can score around the edge. Because these parts are not too hard to remove, I'm just going to be using the spatula. I want to come at it and I'm going to use pressure, and I'm just going to go around and gently press until they pop off. I'm going to continue this process all the way around until they're all removed. Once you remove everything, we want to take some paper towels, clean off our platform, and put it back in the machine. We always want to make sure there's no material up here. After the parts are removed, we're ready to clean them. I'm going to be using 99% isopropyl alcohol. I'm going to pour some into this first container. This is going to be known as our first rinse. We're going to put the parts that came directly off of the machine in here. I'm going to take them all at the same time and drop them in the container. And then I'm just going to agitate them for 1 minute. After the minute has passed, I'm going to remove them all at the same time and take them to the air compressor. I'm going to grab one part and I'm going to make sure to blow in all of the detail. I want to force any extra material or alcohol out of the part. You never want to let the parts air dry. This can cause them to take on alcohol and shrink. After the first rinse and the first blowing off with the air compressor, we're then going to remove the supports. I'm going to take my model, and you can use an X-Acto knife for this, and you just want to break off the top of the supports. You might have some extra bits left on from the support, and that's okay, because we're going to remove that after post-curing. I'm going to go around and remove the supports on all of the models. Now we're going to do the second rinse of alcohol. I'm going to pour the rest of my alcohol into this container. And then I'm going to put all the models in at the same time. And again, I'm going to agitate for 1 minute. At the end of my minute, I'll pull the models out And this time I'm going to use my paintbrush and just really scrub down in the detail to make sure I'm getting everything really clean. After I get everything cleaned, then I'm going to go back to the air compressor and blow these off with more air. I'm going to do this to all of my parts. The final step is post-curing, which is done in the post-curing chamber that you received with your machine. To begin, I'm going to turn the machine on using the switch in the corner. I'm going to open up the lid, and I'm going to put all my parts inside. It's best for them not to overlap, so that way everything can get as much light as possible. Once they're in, I'm going to close the hood. And for this specific material, which is the E-shell material, this gets 1,000 clicks. You'll notice we've got 4 buttons, 1,000, 100, 10, and 1. So I'm going to push the 1,000 button once. For each material, there are different curing parameters. Please make sure to refer to your material parameters or your technician to find out how long to cure your material. Once I've set the time, I'm going to press start and the curing will begin. Once the machine is finished, I'm going to open the lid, flip all of my models over, close the lid, and then cure them for one more cycle. At the end of the second cycle, the models are completely cured and safe to handle without gloves. So I'm going to open the lid, and I'm going to remove my models. And I'll turn off the machine. At this point, the models are completely ready for you to post-finish, do any sanding or extra work you may want to do to them. These are the supports I have cut off of my models. Because it's cured and we can't reconstitute it, this all is unusable and we'll go ahead and discard it. Anything in your basement that remains liquid from day to day is reusable for up to 18 months. With our 2 alcohol rinses, we want to make sure to maintain them to get our parts as clean as possible. Every 2 days, take the second rinse and pour it into the first rinse. We then put fresh alcohol in the second rinse. This helps us get our models completely clean after desupporting. Once a week, take your first rinse and discard it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and found it helpful. Please view all of our videos and other tutorials on our website, or if you have any questions, please call us. We'd love to hear from you.